Right, everyone, it's motor time! Yay, gearbox, oh, motor and added Allen keys. So this is what I'm putting in. It's the Holmes Hobbies Talkmaster Pro 540 4510. Now this is Terry's. I bought this off Terry when he decided he wasn't going to use it anymore. Mine, you may remember, toasted spectacularly on a run. I want to use this because it is a beautiful motor. It doesn't really stand up to being drowned in muddy water, which I've discovered, or I knew anyway, but did regardless. And so I want to use this to be the perfect rig for it, nice and smooth, lots of power. It's not going to get drowned, so perfect. So I've got the tooth on the this thing, pinion thing, on the way that the book suggested. I'm not doing it wrong, I hope. And here's the gearbox. So we get a full breakdown of what the gearbox looks like inside. You can see not only the joys of the gears spinning round at different speeds, but also the amount of grease that's in there. I think this has been well sorted out, okay, grease-wise. So I'm just going to squeeze a bit more in just to say that I did grease the pre-assembled gearbox. Okay, so I have the motor on. I've collect all the screws off the table, such as the beast of this motor. So yeah, it's on. There's a little inspection, this little inspection hatch, which you take off to allow you to mesh it and so on. Dropped a bit more lube in there. I've done some mesh strips. Obviously they've got a bit gungy and you know, messy with the grease and stuff in there. But I think this was the last one. So it's got some nice corrugations on it, and I don't like having too strong a mesh, but yeah, I'm happy with that as it is. I've just set the pinion just slightly off the motor hub, so there's a gap there you can see in there, so that the pinion hits the gear wheel. It's pretty much straight on. And if I just crank this over by hand, it all seems to run nicely in there. Considering that's turning the motor as well. Yeah, wicked. Good job. Alrighty, so we're going to put the main fixed drive shaft from the transfer case to the rear extension. So at this point, none of the axles are going to be connected, just in case the transfer box and motor aren't sort of synced up. I'm really a little apprehensive about this big fixed drive shaft, and if there's any tolerance issues with this, all built into the chassis braces, of course. So I'm a little bit ginger about just bolting the whole thing together and applying some power. I want to do it a stage at a time, just to make sure. Right, so I've got everything plugged in. I've got my battery, I've got the Sidewinder 3 plugged into the motor, which is attached to the chassis. I've got my servo. It's all plugged in. Servo works and motor works. Obviously, look, it's not connected to any wheels yet, just in case it wasn't working properly. But yeah. Sounds good. Right, so I've tested the drivetrain and everything, all good. So far, anyway. Before I connect it to the axles via the prop shafts, what I'm going to do is secure, just make sure you can see, the pins, because these shafts, in common with the MC8 shafts, have got these kind of spring protective bands on. They're just like, you know, like a key ring kind of band holding all the pins in, and if you lose a pin, then you know your end will fall out, so to speak. And on the trail, that can be hellish inconvenient if you find the pin, and obviously time to carry the rig back to the car potentially if you lose the pin. So A tip that's passed to me, and one that I'm going to employ here, is to use a bit of heat shrink to cover all of that on the shaft, like so. Can you see that? Is that, which side are you on? You're on this side now, right? So you see, so some heat shrink covers that. The trick, of course, is to getting heat shrink that's the right size. So let me just measure this. I bought in bulk various different sizes because I had no idea. Obviously, probably different prop shafts are different widths. So buy a big bag of all sorts of different sizes, but you will need stuff that looks quite big. So that's it flat, quite size. So if I lay this on the tape measure, you can see it is just shy of 20 millimeters, 2 centimeters. Okay, just shy of that. I mean, that's just for this prop. It fits snugly. You could get 2 centimeters. Obviously, it's going to shrink. That's the idea. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go around all these prop shafts, and I'm going to slide the thing on, and then I'm just going to heat it up. Trim it. Obviously, I don't need it quite that long, do I? So I'll trim that and get it down to size. Sorry about a dodgy camera. Daft thing. Yeah, this sealing of the drive shaft pins is quite an important step. They look tight, they look nice, and sitting in a groove and everything. They don't look like they're going to force themselves apart, but I've found my MC, and it's exactly the same kind of shaft with the grooves and these springs inside the groove. You think it's going to be fine, but nope. Okay, an update to the update. I've got the front and rear middle axle drive shafts on. Came to do the back drive shaft, and had a problem because it wouldn't. The shaft wouldn't separate, and it wasn't long enough. And I've, in the pictures, it's supposed to be, it's supposed to separate, right? But mine wasn't, so it wasn't going to reach. So, a bit of a panic on. Tried to heat it up with the old, tried to give it some heat. Didn't work. WD-40 didn't work. And I tried jamming it open with a screwdriver. Didn't work. So I got a bit, see if I can find a new one, see if I can order one, and looking at other parts and so on. So, but as a last ditch resort, I've just took it outside and popped my chisel in the gap. I figured if I'm going to have a new one, I might as well, give this one a clout, even if it damages it, which it has slightly. Where are you? This side now, today? No, at this point. This camera focusing is just not. Anyway, see, I took a little chunk out of it there, which is no big deal. But in the end, I've smashed it with a hammer and a chisel, and it has popped it open. I think there is a seam of weld along this lower edge here that I think it was jammed on. You can see it clearer there. So I'm going to file that off, and we shouldn't have any more sticking drive shafts, which would be awesome. All right, phew, we'll have this thing rolling shortly. It's almost done. Right, so the question is, does everything turn the right way? That's the question we need to find out first. Oh, look at that. Yes, they do. Look, even the back's turning the right way. Everything is turning in the right direction at the same time. Okay, the wheels aren't attached, so they're just sitting on their threads. Wicked. Right, that's good news. An interesting point that I saw on the video is that these two strips here are simply bump stops for the axle. And if I remove those, I should get some more articulation at on that plane. I won't get any more this way. Yeah, that's about it for that. But certainly that way I should get more if needs be. So I can always remove those at a later date. if I could, if I feel I need a bit more articulation. I'm not convinced I will, but we'll see. So yeah, all good. If I bolted the wheels on now, we could go out in the garden and drive it. But I'm going to finish the book. There isn't much more to do. Back axe done. Yeah. So the tires are done. So I need to get the servo in. So I can fit the wheels on, get the servo fitted so we can steer it. Obviously, it's not going to drive very far with the front wheel flapping around. And then we're kind of done. I dare say I could probably put the fuel tanks on. Yeah, I could probably put the fuel tanks on as well, just to kind of pad out, give these brackets a purpose. But yeah, we're probably 20 minutes from running it. Okay, thanks for joining in and watching all 3 parts. Now, a couple of things to mention. The servo horn they supply in a kit, nice metal one, but it is, I think, 23 tooth. It's not 25 tooth anyway. My servo is, so I had to replace that. And the bigger tyres I've put on this rig, they rub on the rear of the fuel tanks. The fuel tanks have got a lip around them. They kind of seal. That I've had to cut away at the rear of them. So be careful with that. It does make some horrible noises as it articulates. And I thought it was in mechanical distress, but it wasn't, fortunately. And I've got them cut off. So thanks for watching. The next video, part 4, will be the cab. That is already underway, and I've got some big plans. So stay tuned to find out.